So before we get on to the conversation again, I just want to say a couple of words about PR Mums, which you're all here, so you're all obviously familiar with, which is absolutely amazing. But essentially, we are a hybrid, supportive and flexible working recruitment agency. So what we want to do is find these flexible roles with agencies or organisations where actually we can support people after a career break. And that doesn't necessarily need to be after having children, but it's actually a way that we can help people kind of support all the things going on at home, but actually hopefully have a really fulfilling career as well. So we've got an amazing community of about 450 people on our books, but actually we've got thousands more across our social platforms. It's a great way to reach an amazing connected audience of PR professionals. At the minute, our recruiters are looking for levels from account manager to senior roles, and actually had some amazing successes with hires taking place in under a week. So if anyone is interested, first from PR Mums, our brilliant MD, she's at the back there, please do talk to her. And so we've got, if you want to be involved further, we're always looking for blog contributors. So if there's anything you wanted to share about your experiences or thoughts on kind of parenting in PR, please get in touch. That would be amazing. And we're also looking for agencies to host events, be part of events, and absolutely please do share any roles that you have going as well. Great, so that's PR Mums, and then on to the conversation. I'm Bethany Pearson, I'm a director here at Grayling. I'm also a mum to two boys who are aged 1 and 3, so I feel like I'm in quite an intense period at the moment, and I'm just come back from maternity leave. But I'm thrilled to be joined by such an esteemed panel of PR Mums themselves. So we're going to be talking, as you know, about success and how our perceptions on that evolve throughout our career. And our panellists are in incredible roles. But actually, I'm really interested to hear from them about their relationship with success now and how that's changed. So we'll be speaking to Ed Reed, who's senior PR at BlackBerry and also founder of Complex Parenting Group. We've got Shilpa Saul, who is a fellow founding PR mum like myself, but also a comms director at The Unmistakable. Lucy Hopkins Parkinson, who is who's head of communication at Oatly, and Heather Blundell, who is our UK CEO of Grayling as well. So on to the conversation, which is what you're all really here for. So I'm going to start just by asking a question about the event as a whole. So it's, what is your relationship to success and how has it evolved throughout your careers, particularly after having children? So I'll hand it to you first, Heather, if that's okay, to get your thoughts on that.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. Welcome to Grayling, I really appreciate it. A couple of responses to that question in terms of what success looks like and how that's sort of shifted, and I can answer that from a sort of personal and professional point of view. I think this sounds so basic to say. I feel a real responsibility now to, provide, and these little people sort of looking up at me in the morning, and I'm like, God, I've got to go to work, and so I think in terms of, I love it when particularly women, but parents come back from a return from work or maternity leave, and they're even more ambitious. I think because they're like, well, actually, I'm looking at those nursery fees, and I still want to go in hospital. I need to progress in my career rather than foot off the gas and I can never make this work. So the actual responsibility to provide instead of just sort of providing for myself and my Zara account, basically, it's like a lot more purpose, isn't it? And I would say from two responses in terms of how it's shifted in terms of my professional life. One is I love doing work that I'm really very proud of, and that I'll be able to, my boys, I've got 2 boys and they're pretty little at the moment, but that I look forward to telling them that I worked on, and so I do a lot of social purpose, and recently we did some work with Iceland Foods around baby formula, because some of the policies around baby formula are honestly archaic. You can't donate baby formula to a food bank. And that's why it's robbed all the time. I just can't believe that we have that in society. So, it's got that, all the way through to the government for that to be discussed. I just felt so proud of that work. I love doing all the fun stuff as well, but, actually that's, work that matters. So that's become even more important to me. Building an agency where people can return from, maternity leave or career breaks or whatever it is, and feel that they can be themselves, be parents, and we're on this journey together, is obviously incredibly important to me. And then I think in terms of success and how that looks slightly different, just a whole load of perspective that actually, I love my job and it really matters. But, if something happens to one of the boys, or if they need me, or that actually it's just shifted my focus, and that is now the most important thing to me, and that is what success is. So yeah, I think it's really changed my view of that, hopefully for the better.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. And Lucy, any thoughts from you on
yeah, bizarrely, despite having zero time now, I feel like I have a lot more respect for my own time than I did before having children. If I look back now to what was important to me before having children, it was essentially like get paid more, get promoted as quickly as possible, and you were always, when you're an AE, and then I want to be a consultant, and then I want to do this, and it would almost be, I don't care how late I have to stay or what my boss needs me to do, I would just do it, and my mind has totally shifted now, and I think probably not because I want it to, because my children need me to respect my own time more because they need me to pick them up or they're poorly or something like that. And I was really lucky when I went on maternity leave the first time. I did the PR week, Women in PR mentorship thing, and I had this lady mentor, and she was just incredible because when I went on my first maternity leave, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, I wanted to come back and prove myself immediately, and I needed, basically, I wanted a promotion straight away to show that I hadn't lost any time and things were still moving, and I wanted to change my job. And she was really harsh with me, actually, and she was saying there's kind of 5 P's that you look for in a role, which is pay, practicality, like how easy is it to get there, do I have to do lots of travel, promotion, is there development opportunity, power, do you have freedom or do you manage lots of people, and purpose. And I think what motherhood has taught me is, of course, you need some of those things like pay, but it's really shifted what's important to me now. And she really slowed me down and showed me that the job I was in when I came back from maternity leave, I had lots of practicality, I had fine pay. It wasn't a promotion, but she kind of really questioned me, is like, why do you want that? Yeah. And actually, I really wanted it just because I needed to prove something, and actually to slow down and look at what I really wanted from a different role really helped me, and I respected my time and spent about 12 months really working out what I wanted to do. And instead of waiting for the first promotion that came to me, I kind of sought it out instead. And the role at Oatly on paper wasn't actually quite right, but because I was sort of more empowered to take what I needed, I was like, well, I quite like this role, but I would need it to do these things actually, and I would need to change the job title, and I need it to be this. Because I almost was like, well, I don't really care if you give me this job or not, because I'm happy where I am. And I definitely wouldn't have had that confidence before having children, but I was like, this is working for me, so I'm going to do it. And then, lo and behold, when you act like you're confident, sometimes people give you a job. So actually, that's been a really positive.
Amazing. Actually, interesting you saying about the kind of, I guess, the competitive late thing I think will resonate with lots of people, maybe throughout their career, definitely kind of at stages, and actually from the sort of working infrastructure, particularly in PR. Do you think there's any kind of boundaries in place or the way it's set up that actually limits the success of working parents? And I'm just wondering actually, like, how we as individuals and actually as kind of leaders of organisations as well, how can we sort of challenge that system that actually works better in our favour and does set up success? Any thoughts from you, Shilpa?
Yes. Any thoughts on how the infrastructure needs to change? And I think one of the things that we mustn't forget is actually the industry was set up by men for men. So it's actually not fit for purpose now, given that it's mainly women who work in PR. So that's probably the first thing. I think in terms of actual day-to-day working in PR, I was talking to a partner at a really well-known and very successful PR agency the other day, and she's a mum. And she said when any person on her team asks to come back after parental leave on less than 5 days, she automatically says no. Mic drop. And the reason for that is because she knows full well that she'd be setting that person up to fail, because she knows that the job can't be done in less than 5 days. And the reasons that she gave me were, well, it's because, clients want to get hold of you whenever you want, all of these reasons that we all know because we all work in PR. And actually, most of us are in positions of where we can actually change that, where actually, as she's a partner in a really successful agency, she could actually turn around and go, do you know what, clients, you're not paying us enough to be on call 24/7. So actually, no, I'm not going to answer your email at 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday, when I don't even work on a Thursday anyway, regardless, and definitely don't work at 11:30. So I think there's something around us reframing this need to be on for like 24/7, because you will have all heard it's PR, not ER. Most of the time that's true, right? I mean, there are obviously exceptions. For example, if you're working for a cruise brand and someone has unfortunately gone overboard, that's a bit of an ER moment, right? But most of the time, it's fine and it can wait. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I don't think our clients want us really to be on 24/7. I mean, I've been client side, and I was always horrified if anyone on my agency team would reply to me past 6 o'clock. So it's like, I know that we're not paying you enough to do that, and I don't know what your salary is, but your fees aren't enough. So please don't, or don't work late, because you don't need to, because it can wait till tomorrow. So I think that's one of the things that we really need to challenge. And then the other thing, which is related to that, is rigid working hours, because we all know that the job can get done in the hours that we have. We don't have to do it between, I was going to say 9 to 5, but let's face it, nobody works 9 to 5, right? So we all know we can get the job done, and it doesn't have to be between 8 and 7. We can do it whenever we need to. So I think that's something else that we should collectively be challenging. And actually, both of those things wouldn't just benefit working mums or working parents, it'd actually benefit everybody. And I know we're going to come on and talk about Gen Z in a bit and what we can learn from them, but if we actually want our industry to thrive and keep being alive for the next 20 years, we're going to have to change, because Gen Z, I know now, I'm telling you, will not put up with that nonsense. They'll just be like, why are we doing that? That's just silly. So that's my full pen on the infrastructure.
Thank you. And what about you, Lucy?
Yeah, I feel really passionate about what you said about particularly agency. Being in-house now, I think you can't enjoy flexible working and a really nice work culture and then treat your agency really terribly. And I think the relationship I have now with my agency is, I might say, and could you do it for me for the end of the week? And sometimes I just need to say this out loud, like, often we're making up that deadline. Like, often we are just making it, because I know I need to put a deadline, so I just put one. And actually to have that relationship where they say, just checking, does it actually need to be Friday because I'm not working, would you mind if it was Monday? I'd say 9.5 times out of 10 it is, and that particularly senior people in agency need to be better about enabling more junior people to do. That's not even a pushback, it's just a question. And I think sometimes I remember in agency feeling like I can possibly question the client, and I think that is really changing. Particularly senior people in agency need to empower more junior people to feel like they can ask those questions, because I'm honestly making up the deadline half the time, definitely. And the thing I wanted to say on this is, I'm noticing in the media and good old Alan Sugar lots of stuff about people, returning to the office and productivity is down. And I feel really passionate that flexible working is basically the most important thing that's ever happened to parents. And I don't think there is this whole returning to the office thing, I feel, isn't being done for the right reasons. We talk a lot about this at Oatly. You need to design policies based on the best person in the office, not the worst person in the office. So don't design policies out of fear, out of people aren't going to be unproductive if they're at home, or if they do that, then that person over there is going to take the piss. Instead, think, Lucy's brilliant. How can we design a policy so she doesn't leave? And so really questioning yourself, why are we asking people to come back to the office on Tuesday and Wednesday every week? And by the way, if the reason is a good reason, as in because junior people get to mix with the more senior people and the culture and all of that, then fine. But I would say 9 times out of 10, people are designing those policies out of a place of fear. I would rather design policies based on the best people in the office and deal with the people who are taking the piss, rather than create policies for the people who are worst in your office.
That's amazing to hear it from a client side, actually. I'm also really interested from an agency leader perspective, Heather, what you think about that, particularly on how companies can do better.
Yeah, and I think from an agency side, we need to challenge ourselves, and I won't be able to fix this today, but the infrastructure does need to change. We're a time-based, we build hours, and so the hybrid working and flexible working, and and I hope no one in our agency feels this, but I have certainly felt it at previous agencies, the pressure to hit your billability targets, and they're flagged, and that's right, we run a business, but how are we accommodating that? And that's something that I'm absolutely challenging myself on, that bit of infrastructure. I also think everything we have in terms of leadership, we need to have people in positions of power that understand these matters. And I will tell you now, and perhaps this isn't a very good reflection of me, but I wouldn't have had empathy of these issues before until I had children. And, you know, even physically getting into the office for 9 o'clock is like an absolute battle. Is Romilly here?
I am.
Oh, we had this hilarious conversation the other day. Romy is a director on our corporate team, but like I think one of us had like yogurt in our hair. Like, it was just like, look, would this ever have happened to us before? And this is across every single, every single place of work. My husband, hilariously, ER and PR. My husband is actually an A&E doctor, and which makes my life a rather harsh perspective in terms of how important things are. But he the other day was doing, I had to be in London, he was doing drop off, and he was like, Heather, like we were up at like 6, I was like dressed and I had to drop them off in 2 separate places. I made it, they have to do ward round where they walk around all the different places. So I made it at 8:30. He was like, I was buzzing that I'd made it. I was absolutely buzzing. And then someone very senior in the hospital said, it would have been really good if you were here at 8 because we had a complex patient over there. And he just like my whole world just crashed because I was so proud that I'd managed to get there. And I can't tell you, I basically had to like get the children up before it was daylight. And I just thought, gosh, like, you know, to have people in positions of power, I mean, I just wouldn't dream of saying that. And I hope I wouldn't have said it before, but I wouldn't dream of saying it now because I have so much respect for how hard it is to get in pre-10 sometimes. So you have to have people in positions of leadership that understand and, you know, deal with these matters.
And mandating people's location, unless you're a doctor, you'd be literally just
Yeah,
in front of your page.
yeah.
But I think mandating people's location in an unnecessary career, I think it's really interesting, and whatever level you are, and if you're in leadership, is really questioning those policies. So we want people to be in on a Tuesday. Why? Well, because we've noticed that the senior people aren't interacting with the junior people and they're not getting that opportunity to have time with them. Well, is making them come into the office on the Tuesday going to solve that problem? Or would you solve that problem by the senior people doing something with the junior people? So it's almost that the way that people are, it's kind of lazy policy, I think, because that's not really the solve for that problem. So it's trying to think a bit differently about, well, if that's really what you're trying to solve, if you're being honest, then maybe there's a different way to solve it than mandating people's time. Because as you say, it's actually really difficult sometimes for people to come in, and it's a waste. It takes you an hour to get into the office. And
also, in terms of productivity, I mean, that could never be an argument. Agency land. I remember looking at our billability rates during COVID and never seen them so high. Like it was.
I think it's interesting on the billable hours, just from an in-house perspective. I don't care how many hours my agency bill. I want outcomes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Honestly, it's such an archaic measurement.
Yeah, it really is.
It just needs to be scrapped.
Yeah.
So if you deliver, that's great.
That's great.
If you spend 60 hours a month on my account and you don't give me anything,
Yeah.
I couldn't care.
Yeah, but I remember a client saying that to me once, like, please can you stop it? Over-service is very in-house, like in agency term, isn't it? Like, oh, we have over-serviced you. Like, sounds so weird. But like, I'm like, please can we stop using this language with clients? But yeah, I'm just like, I literally don't care about your over-service. I care about your, or under-service for that matter. I care about your outputs. Yeah, and you could sorry, this is now not a commercial one, but you could so easily change it. It just, if you refuse to do it, there are so many pictures that you're discounted from. So then you kind of got a hybrid model where you're doing like value-based billing on some things and hour-based billing for others. The whole thing needs to just change. Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. Thanks so much. And what you were saying about, I'm sure we've all felt this, really resonated with me about how you might have thought about things before having kids, or like, you know, getting into all of that stuff is obviously with a new perspective. And actually that sort of leads me to the next question, which is thinking about your authentic self. So thinking about mum with yogurt in her hair, or however, like, it's, you know, whether we need to bring that, we talk about bringing this authentic self to work, and actually, is that something that we sort of, you as individuals, strive to do, or do you feel like, because I certainly know that my authentic self of being very frustrated maybe at 3-year-old tantrum might not be what my colleagues want to see, but you know, where's that balance when you're kind of parenting into work, and sort of, is there a way that we could kind of be more focused at home and separate, or is it something that you think should be blended? And Ellis, I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Bethany mentioned that I started a complex parenting group, which my eldest child has a very rare condition called Charge syndrome. So he has a lot of hospital appointments. and so therefore I need to be out of the office a lot of the time. And I made the decision very early on that I would be very transparent about what we're going through. I told everybody who I work with, I told the agency team, I'm very, very open and honest about it. You know, if he has had a difficult week because something hasn't gone right, and I'm having to be the one, I'm the only person that can calm him down and help him regulate, then I'm going to let you know, and you can deal with that. I'm not going to sort of apologise for the fact that my child needs possibly more time than a typically developing child might. So absolutely, tell people what's going on. Be like, it's as much as your career is possibly a huge part of your life, your children are a bigger part of that, and they need you to be open and honest about their existence as well. So kind of, I talk about them, I don't make excuses for them, I don't use them as an excuse, but they are a huge part of what makes me turn up every single day. Like I said, like making sure I can pay the bills and stuff, so I'm here because I want to provide for them, but I'm also going to be my authentic self and be with them. So with the complex parenting group, it's a lot of blogs about what we're going through as a family. So again, just being so transparent about what's happening and just sort of leaving it to my colleagues to understand and read through it, and not gonna dance around it trying to pretend that it's not happening. So I know for some people that they do like to pretend that everything is separate and you like to keep track and state. And I remember going away for a girls' weekend like very soon after having my second child, and realising I had nothing to talk about other than my kids. feeling really like, embarrassed that every word that came out of my mouth was like, so they're doing this together. And they were all not parents, and were just kind of, I could sort of see them. But I don't care. Like, this is who I am, and it's one of these things where why should we always try to pretend we're something that we're not? And if we are mums, and we're proud of being mums, and we want to talk about our kids, go for it.
Thank you so much for sharing. Can I just say that Ella's written some amazing blog posts, and I hugely recommend you all go and read them. Sort of check out the amazing Nudging Complex Parenting group, so it's fantastic, and there's a few people we need to connect with PR moms as well, but thank you. Heather, really interested in your thoughts on this one as well.
Yeah, I think this has been an area I have had to develop, probably as I've become more senior, and also as I've quite frankly become older and become a mum. I think I've always found it very difficult to show any vulnerability, and always thought everyone was looking to me for the, you know, to be strong and decisive, and like if you fall apart then we're all, you know. But I had after I had my first son, I had a very short maternity leave. I think I just felt very insecure to take any longer, and you know, I wish I had, but I went back to work very, very quickly. And I remember being in front of my leadership team one day, and he'd hit like a 4-month sleep regression, and I was like there at work. He woke up every 45 minutes. You know, when you're just like, I'm going to be sick. I'm actually sick at this meeting. I don't need a lot of sleep. I'm going to be sick. And anyway, I will never forget it because it stuck with me forever. Because someone said something, and I just said, I'm so sorry. I am so tired, and I think my voice might have shifted. I've never seen this team like rise to support me. Like they just took everything off my plate. You don't need to be in this new business. You don't need that. You don't, you know. And it wasn't like go home and sleep, but it was like for the few weeks afterwards. And I've never forgotten it. Like if I'm ever struggling or sad or tired, I don't feel ashamed to admit that to people now, and that's been a real journey for me. And then I think in terms of transparency, again, I've been on a big journey with this. I probably was, but not deliberately, because I'm very open, but a bit more sort of church and state about, you know, I don't need to bother anyone with that. But again, probably just with a bit more confidence, I've just relaxed myself on that. And a couple of months ago, actually at Grayling, I was dropping off my eldest son. It was during half term, and you know when you put them in those sports clubs that they love for 3 days and then all of a sudden decide they hate. And he's never told me ever that he doesn't want to go to school or nursery or sports club. So when he froze outside and said, I can't go, and he turned out some child says we need him the day before. Hilariously, that he was going to send him to an Amazon warehouse, which with the benefit of hindsight, I could probably have reasoned with him as not to happen. At that moment, I was like, oh, and I, you sat and you're like, well, if you don't go, you will have to come to work with mummy. And he was like, okay, like there with his little rucksack on. He was like, okay, I'll come to work with you, mummy. And I was like, right, well, off we go. And I had a client meeting, I had loads of internal meetings, I had a full agency meeting where like 200 people, and actually, I just remember just walking in with him and just saying, my childcare's fallen through. It's just very, very, very open about it. I had bought like a colouring book at the station, like the whole thing, had nothing with him to do all day. And it was just one of the best days I've had here. He got to, I guess trying to communicate to a 6-year-old what I do is very hard, and his dad's a doctor and sort of get his head around that, and actually he was like sat in the little front row of my agency meeting. I just saw his little face like this, and they went home and he was like, mummy's work is a party, which is like not helpful for me at all. Like I turned around at one point, he was just standing on the desk with like Estelle doing like paper aeroplanes and it was just so nice. And then I think the biggest thing for me is I got quite a few messages of people being like, it was really great to see you in that moment. Like you brought in your kid, and I was probably flustered. I was like, oh, but actually everyone was so lovely to him. Saw a bit of me through him, and I'm really pleased it happened. And it's not in an Amazon warehouse. Being shipped off.
I think that's so nice. I think people like you, Heather, it's just wonderful to hear, because as an agency leader, as a CEO, it's just lovely to see that you're doing that, because you're role modelling behaviour. And I think for all of us, if we have children, and we want them to live in a better world than the one we do.
Yeah,
and even if it's little things like we want them to be in a more empathetic workplace, we have to start that, don't we? For the younger people to come up through the ranks and kind of go, oh, it's all right if I'm having a wobble or whatever. And I think that can be because you've got children, but it could be for any number of reasons. I think when you're talking about bringing your authentic self to work, I completely hear you. There is that kind of feeling of like, I don't want to show any vulnerability or weakness. And I'll share a really personal story with you, which is that in my 20s, I didn't have children in my 20s, but I had a mother who had Alzheimer's, and it was really, really hard for me because she was really ill and didn't recognise me and didn't know anything really. And I never told anyone at work.
That's so sad.
And actually, that didn't help me, because sometimes I was probably a bit of an arsehole, to be honest, or I was just like miserable and angry. But because nobody had the context, they just thought, oh, she's an arsehole and she's miserable and angry. And so that didn't help my colleagues, because they didn't know what was happening, and it didn't help me either. And actually, had I been more open, I think that would have really helped me and my team. And so now, I think with being a mother, it's not about necessarily telling your colleagues all about all of the crap things you have to do in the morning before you get to work, because let's face it, no one's interested, right? Unless they're another mum. But if they're not a parent, they don't care. But it's about using those moments to kind of go, okay, is there something here that I can share that will help then my colleague or my team member open up about something that they're doing, and finding those commonalities that help you connect with other team members and also just help you bond as a team. So I think, it's really, really important and great to see you role modelling that.
Yeah.
We talk about vulnerability, but actually all the things that we're talking about give you so much strength.
Yeah.
It takes so much strength to be woken up every 45 minutes.
Yes.
It takes so much strength to care for a mother who doesn't recognise you as ill. Like, we should reframe it so it's not, I'm vulnerable in this situation, it's I'm so strong, you should understand how strong this strong self that I'm bringing to work with me and whatever comes with it.
But this stuff is shocking as well. We're not talking a long time ago. I pray that there's no one going through that we don't know about. But I'm sure there is, and that's why we have to keep reinforcing these messages. I'm looking at our menopause policy, our baby loss policy at the moment, and the amount of input I've had from women in business who here or at other agencies have sat at their desk miscarrying. I mean, that is shocking, and we are not this is not a long time ago at all. Like, it's such a responsibility for us to improve here, but it's also just like, this is what has happened for years, and that is why this is why it's so important for this to change.
Thanks so much, guys, and also for opening that conversation to give people permission, because absolutely we need them to share with us, and likewise, so thank you, it was amazing answers. It just leads on to the Gen Z conversation, which we mentioned earlier, but actually I just wondered if we could wrap it up a bit more in terms of looking at, I guess, boundaries of what we can learn from younger people in their kind of work-life balance, but also sort of within that, I guess, how we can set a good example to our kids and also the teams that we work with on what that sort of work-life balance looks like. So I wonder, actually, Shilpa, can I start with you on that one?
Yeah, I'd love to know is there anyone in this room who's Gen Z? Is there anyone who works with Gen Z people? And do you sometimes have those eye roll moments when you're like, Gen Z? Okay, right, so safe space, okay? I do as well sometimes, and that's okay, but actually, most of the people I work with now are Gen Zers. I'm the oldest person in my consultancy. And I have learned so much from them. So yeah, I do have sometimes a bit of an eye roll moment, because why wouldn't you? You know, I feel like I can. I'm nearly 50. I feel like I can eye roll anybody, to be honest. But actually, I love that they are so focused on the importance of their own mental health. Because had I even tried to have that conversation as a 23-year-old, I think probably I'd been laughed at, or I probably would have lost my job. To be honest, you know what I mean? Like, it just would have been like, what are you talking about? No one gives a flying F about your mental health. But now it's so important, and actually I think that is one of the things we can definitely learn from Gen Z, is that we need to value our own mental health as parents and as leaders or managers within our consultancies, because if we don't, then everything else is going to fall apart, right? So I think that's one thing that we can really learn from Gen Zers. And I think a couple of other things, one of them is around, as you say, setting these clear boundaries, and I alluded to it earlier. There ain't no way that Gen Z are going to be like, yeah, I'm on 24/7 and I'm just going to work for you for like 15 hours a day, because they're busy, right? 6 o'clock, they're going to shut their laptop and go off and do their side hustle. They're not busy, they're not bothered about what you think. And again, I think that's great to a very large extent, and it's something that we should be instilling in our own children about their own boundaries, you know, about homework and then playtime, about the importance of doing things that aren't just focused on your 11 plus. As an example, which I've been through twice and I've got one more round to go. And then also, again, role modelling that for people who we work with, so that people can kind of go, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to finish at 4 today because I need to go to the opticians, or something just banal. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just because we do actually have lives outside of our work, and just us all being able to recognise that, I think, would be really important. And then finally, Heather, you talked earlier about your sense of purpose, and again, this is something that I've really learned from Gen Zers. Like, I think they would laugh if I told anyone in my current company that I was like up and really stressing about how I was going to get girls allowed out to Shanghai without any money, which we managed. Success. I think they'd just be like, what? That is not that. Why does that even matter? And you know, that's a good question to ask. And sometimes it does matter to me, because I can tell my children, because they're like, oh, okay, so like when we're your age, will we be going to see Taylor Swift? Because she'll also be on. Yeah, something does that. So there's those things, but then also just kind of thinking, is what I'm doing purposeful? Because so many of the Gen Zers that I work with, and that could be because I work in DEI, so everything we do has purpose, but you know, they are really focused on the difference that they can make to people. And I think actually that is something that we can learn from. It's something that we can instill in our children, and also something that we can bring to work. So even if you are working on like a really fluffy consumer PR campaign, which is great, and the purpose is to generate loads of column inches because for whatever reason, that's still great, as long as you were able to define that purpose and then share and have that as a shared purpose for your team, so that you can then all together celebrate success. So lots, I think, that we can learn from Gen Z.
Thanks, Shilpa. Any thoughts from you, Lucy? Because I know you've got very Gen
Yes. Yeah, 2 things on that. So at 35, I'm the oldest woman in my office. It's very upsetting.
That is
really upsetting. So they are all Gen Z, and yeah, very cool. And 2 things to say on this is when I joined Oatly, I was taking on a team. They managed our social media channels. It's like a big thing at Oatly, but they were a bit of an unhappy team. They're all Gen Zs, and so I thought I'd do these like one-to-ones with them to work out what was going on. And yeah, one of them, just like by saying it sounds like she's a terrible person, but I was like, hey, what do you want to do? Like at 30, what do you see yourself doing? And she sort of like looked at me so blankly, and she was like, well, ideally in 5 years I won't be working. And I was like, I had to stop. And I'll be honest, my first thought was I judged her because I was like, God, the balls on you to say to your manager that ideally I won't work. Like ideally I'm this lazy, I don't want to be working. And I was like, God, I never would have said that to my manager. I'd be like, I'm a bit like you or whatever I would say. And but it's essentially taught me that we
you
have
might
to.
need to stop paying.
Yeah, it's like we have to unlearn how to manage these people. So dangling the carrot of promotion, or if you do that piece of work, X person will see it, or you'll get to talk in the Monday morning meeting, where it just doesn't fly with them. It's like they don't mind what the work is, but they have to feel acknowledged and understand why it's important, and that actually is more important to them than anything else. And so it's actually really okay if her goal is that I don't want to work at good luck to you. If she can do that, great. And actually I had to stop myself, because when I thought about what she was doing at work, she's the best at her job. She delivers everything. So who cares if that is her goal? And I had to really unlearn my own bias of all the the way the generation above me taught me. And then the second thing I've learned is, when I leave the office, I did a LinkedIn post about this actually, is when I leave the office at 3 o'clock, sometimes maybe twice a week, to go pick up my children, I get up and no one says anything. Nobody says, oh, picking up the kids, or oh, half day, Lucy. And often some people don't mean to say that in a negative way at all, and they might actually be trying to be supportive. It's actually kind of a microaggression against that mum, particularly if you're the only mum in the office. It's like you keep pointing out that she's left the office early, or you keep talking about that she's picking up her children. There's something really nice about getting up and nobody cares. And that should not just be the case for parents, it should also be the case for the Gen Z who wants to go to their gym class, or the person who wants to do that. And that, I think what Gen Z can teach us is to come from a place of trust first, rather than, why is that person leaving early, and not making those comments, because they are actually really othering. So I've learned that as well.
That's brilliant. And Alice, any thoughts from you about the kind of, the sort of setting a great example for your kids in the workplace and what you see, and how you can do that?
Yeah, like Shilpa said, you set boundaries for your children, but if you don't set them for yourself, what kind of example are you giving? I just think being the best person you can be. For me, that is being there for the hospital appointments. It's making sure that Elias knows that I'm advocating for him all the time, and that I'm not compromising on anything. And he will know that I don't resent any of the stuff I've had to do, and that I've done it all with an open heart and with him in mind.
That's amazing, thank you. So I think that I'm slightly conscious of time, but I just wanted to sort of, wrap up this conversation before we go on to a Q&A, with just, a bit of a take out from all of you in terms of what you'd like everyone in this room to hopefully kind of make them feel a bit empowered about their own successes, be that small or big or however that is. So if I can start with you, Heather, and then perhaps just work our way through the panel, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, so I guess a key takeaway from this conversation is, I said it in one of my first answers in terms of, that I love seeing, women returners, coming back, for real, ambition and, wanting to really contribute, and it heartens me because it's, I spent years and years at previous agencies where we didn't have, pre-COVID, we didn't have a flexible and hybrid model, just watching incredible women just fall out the system time and time again, to the point I remember just sitting at my desk and just thinking, I am never going to have kids. Like, how on earth, these brilliant people dropping out. And now I really, really do hope that we are shifting the, conversation around that. And I just think, instead of fearing it, is that I see women come back from, maternity leaves, and as you said, like having children with, almost like this confidence, because you also feel like grown up, like children. Like, I remember saying like my son for the first time, and I was like, oh God, and exactly, and actually, you know, I used to, before I had kids, I used to mince about the office, chatting, and then I'd sit at my desk at 6 and stay there till 11 to do my work, and it was just normal. Now I'm literally, like, if a meeting is longer than half an hour, that needs to be for a really good reason. I'm unbelievably effective. Like, I see it in people all the time. So, and to actually feel like empowered by that, but also I do hope, and I hope there's not people in the room that disagree, but I think I'm a kinder person and more compassionate after becoming a mum. You know, we have those conversations about yoga in our hair and, you know, any challenges that people are facing, just like, God, you're still showing up and this is really hard. So, you know, more effective, you know, compassionate, and also in a way, you know, I'm not really scared of very much or anyone anymore. Like, I birthed 2 children, and like what is going to happen to me? Like, nothing. So it's kind of like a strength there. So I would, you know, view it as a superpower, and for us to all use that superpower for good.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically my answer, but just
Sold.
so much more eloquently. Yeah, I had a baby in a moving vehicle, so like there is nothing that you can throw at me that we cannot handle.
Yeah.
But I guess, so to not repeat you, that the other thing that I would say, and I know sometimes we can't help it, but just try really hard not to have a child with an arsehole. Because, like, actually, I think there's a lot on about, like, oh, women being role models, but if you have a great partner, and if we can make dads be great dads and talk about being a dad at work, if we can encourage more dads to work 4-day weeks as well and not feel more judged than mums taking 4 days, which, by the way, I think they kind of are. I don't think we are there with dads. So the more great
or don't even
dads,
take all their paternity leave.
they don't take their paternity. They feel like
don't
they
take their
can't.
paternity leave.
Yes, exactly. And so I actually think the best thing that could happen to mums is more dads talking about dads, and more dads being great dads and being really open about it, and helping the next generation, who, by the way, are already smashing it. But yeah, the best thing that could happen to mums is more great dads.
Have you seen the Parenting Out Loud movement on LinkedIn? It's amazing, isn't it? It's just lots. I've just seen suddenly an influx of like dads sharing experiences, which, by the way, we do work with our mums. But yeah, thank you. That's fantastic.
It's just one question.
Yeah, so it's just don't worry at all. I'd tell you what would be really great actually is we want to talk about a sort of takeout for everyone to take away, just to feel a bit empowered about the success. But actually, I'm wondering whether we can incorporate in that sort of small things that we can do to celebrate success. We've talked a lot about the big promotions and what we're striving for, but actually, is there anything that's surviving the week? All of that kind of stuff that people can take away and actually just feel like, no, I am doing stuff that matters, and I am a success in my own right.
Yeah, I mean, I think your key take, but I really want everyone to kind of leave today and kind of go, yeah, actually, getting into the office or starting work or finishing the day, and none of your children have died. I think
Small wins.
It's a good win. Right? It's a good win. That's amazing. Like, you know, your children are okay and you're okay and you've done what you needed to do for the day. Like, I think that's a massive win. That's a massive success, and we just need to reframe what success looks like. Because frankly, as I say, who are the people who wrote the rule book about success? It wasn't us. You know, it was those other people. Men. Sorry. So I think that's it. Like, just celebrate those small/big wins. Like, it is like that is massive that you are all parenting successfully and that you're holding down a job in some way or another. And I think the other thing is, like, a big takeaway would be, please, everyone, have the confidence just to you do you kind of thing. You know, have that confidence. Be confident enough to go, I can't do those things for these reasons, because the reasons are always going to be really valid reasons. That's what I'd love to see.
And I completely agree with you as well. My kids are alive and I've done some work. But I think my takeaway is that success is fluid, and just because something that you held in high esteem before you had children maybe isn't as important now, you're not a failure, you haven't changed your feminism, you're not doing anything wrong by just shifting your perspective for a little while. And down the line, that can come back again and it can start to be as much of the priority as it was before. So just enjoy the fluidity of it. Enjoy what is important to you. And one way to champion success. So I have always, my entire career, had a kudos folder in my inbox. So I put my emails when someone said something nice. So when I had a day when I go, oh, I'm terrible at everything, I open it up and I go, actually, I'm better. So me too, always have a kudos folder.
And send kudos emails.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
that's an amazing way to wrap up the conversation. So thank you so much. And to the point about getting up and out of the house, you all make it. And what made it? Oh my god, thank you. And everyone looks great. I haven't got any yogurt yet. So we've got about 10 minutes for questions. So if anyone would like to ask a question, we would love panelists to be able to answer that. Yeah, great. What would you like to say?
I'm just wondering if the panel could give, like, if you had to give advice to your younger self. I mean, you've sort of done a little bit of that, but if there's, something that you would pass on.
I would say don't have kids until you've done everything that you want to do. Just because of you don't know, everything's so unpredictable, so you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to go on that holiday with your children ever again. So if you want to see the world, you'll see the world, and if you want to get to a certain point in your career, to get to that point, and then right.
I've shared this already, but I was made a managing director quite sort of young at a big agency, and then I sort of a year later was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And sort of the look on the faces were like we didn't think that was going to happen for a little while, and it was an absolute fumble to try and find who was going to like cover an MD, and I actually think that agency in question got loads better, but I just felt awful about it. I said, oh, I'll have 4 months, I'll be absolutely fine. And then the baby came early, so it came a month early, so I was like, oh my god, am I going to have 3 months? But anyway, I ended up taking like sort of 4.5 months, and I can't change anything. It happened, and actually my husband then took 6 months, so one of us was with that child for the best part of the year. But looking back now, I just think, was it like, what bonkers? Like, I should have just taken the time I needed, and they would have fudged it, and I came back in, and I remember I was off for such a short amount of time. I'd sent a budget to a client, and I picked it up when I got back. I have not taken long enough off here. And again, circumstances out of my control, quite complicated birth. I remember going back to work. I was like, I'm still in a bit of pain. I've come back too early. So I would do that differently. Of course I can't, but I can share my experiences. And also another experience, don't assume you're going to have your baby late. There are so many the women now say, I'm going to work 39 weeks. I'm like, you might have it, but 36 weeks. Just factor those bits in. And then I think I've been on a real journey of awful things like, I don't need to go to that. I can get away with not going to that sport day. He's so young, he won't remember. I'll go to the other ones. And I've missed a nativity. I've missed a sports day. I've missed these things. And looking back on it, I just think, how bonkers. I feel like I could say to most clients and and teams and pitches, I actually just can't be there because I've got an activity or whatever. So I'm on a journey with it, but that's definitely the stuff I would tell my younger self.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Any other questions? Yes, indeed.
Any tips for starting a new role, finding a new company, anything to look for in the culture, in the management, and also how to set those boundaries from the outset?
Day one, yeah.
Who'd like to take that one?
I think it's sometimes really great starting a new role when you're already a mum, because they don't know, honestly, when I went back to my work, there was something really nice. I'm like, I know I'm doing really shit right now, but I know you all know I'm really good.
Yes.
Whereas when you go to a new place and you're already a mum, people don't have those that sort of perception of what you were like before when you had all the time in the world, and now that you don't. So it's really important that you set those boundaries and that you stick to them, and don't people please your own boundaries away. Because I observe in myself that, and maybe I'm very lucky because it's Oatly, but the only people who break my boundary is me, and I'm the only one who sends. And I don't work Thursdays. People email me on a Thursday. No one expects a reply. It's not their job to remember Thursday is my day job. It's my day off. It's my job to remind them. It's my job to put my out of office on, and it's my job to not reply. And if I do reply, I didn't need to. And so I think it's really important to set those boundaries, and then you stick to them, and don't allow scope creep, agency talk.
I'm going to go to Shieldbooks. You did a brilliant blog post about changing jobs, actually, and there was around that. No, it's great. You'll be on the website.
Yes.
So I just thought you had some thoughts on this one.
So yeah, I do. But your question is, if you're looking for a new role, what things to look for as a working mum? And I'd say you know in yourself what you want from your new role, and you know what boundaries you want to set. So if it was me looking for a new role, I'd probably want to speak to other working parents before I took a role, to understand what the culture's like, because everyone says they're inclusive, but they're not. So it'd be good just to understand from other people what their lived experience is. I'd have a look on LinkedIn to see what people are saying about it, if anything. I'd also ask to look at their maternity policies, which I know you may feel a bit like, oh no, because I don't want to do that, because then you might think I'm going to get pregnant as soon as I join. But keep in mind, if they do think that, you don't want to work there anyway. And also, it will give you a really good sense of how they treat working parents and how much they value or not value them. So look at the paternity policy as well as the maternity one, just to see how supportive they are. I'd also look at things like the menopause policy, if they've got one, because again, it just is a really good indicator of what they do and don't value, and where they're placing their importance when it comes to setting up these policies in the first place. So those would be my tips.
And look up sort of makeup of the leadership team, and who would be in positions of responsibility and power. Yeah.
Amazing. Any other questions? Yes, lovely.
Hi, I just wanted to say amazing panel, and like everything you all said totally resonated. Maybe a follow-on question kind of on boundaries. I worked in agencies for many years and set my own agency about 5 years ago, and decided that I wanted to do it in a different way and be like that kind of female leader that sets example. So I've got 2 kids. I do work 4 days a week in contrast to the lady you mentioned who does 5 days. And I think I've tried to set an example of being a good employer, setting an example for the female members of the team, talking openly about my fertility struggles or how it is challenges of working mum, putting my kids into work, etc. But I am the oldest person in the organisation, and I work with a lot of Gen Z, and I think I'm kind of the mum of the organisation, and so I struggle a bit with terms of setting boundaries of everyone comes to me with their whole self and their issues, and I absorb a lot of that, and then I have to go home and deal with actual children and deal with their issues, and I struggle to kind of set boundaries. So I want to be that really nice boss who listens and cares for everyone, but I find it quite an emotional load to do that and then look after my children as well. I just wonder if you have experience of that, and if so, how you manage it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think about this a lot because there's not much client stuff that I don't really know what to do, or a deck I don't know how to write, or a new business proposal I don't know how to approach. The things that I can really mull over are what you're basically describing, almost like the emotional load, and especially when you're in a position, the leadership position, and you want to be approachable. I think something that and this isn't fully fleshed out for, but I'm challenging myself on, and us as an agency on, is there is a difference between nice and kind. And sometimes we will have performance issues, or and we won't address them because we're like, we want to be nice, or someone's coming to you and potentially that's probably oversharing, but you're listening to it and you're making allowances because you're nice and you are a nice person. Sometimes the kind thing to do to someone is actually to tell them why they're not getting promotion, honestly, and to tell them what you need to see, and to tell them that actually, I needed to see this in that meeting and you didn't, let's work on it together. Like, there is a kindness to having honesty within your agency, and that doesn't just mean that people spout off at you absorb it, or have to fix their problems and make it all, put a bow on it. It's like that's not your job. So I really understand what you're describing, and I find it sort of the most complicated part of my job, but also you don't always need to absorb all that, and there is a difference between being nice and being kind.
I completely agree. I think there's something around being responsible as well.
Yeah.
Because we see it a lot that people will, because we've encouraged it. We've said bring your whole self to work. We've said
Don't bring your whole self. Not that bit.
And we've said share if you're suffering with your mental health. We've said to share that, haven't we? So we've said be open. And I guess the difference is that, yes, we're saying you can be open, but we all need to remember that we are probably not. I mean, I'm certainly not a trained psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And I'm not a trained counsellor. So actually, some things will come up that we're not equipped to deal with. And the most responsible thing would be not for us to give our opinion, because, it would actually be, okay, can we direct you to, if you're part of a huge network, you're bound to have policy, you're bound to have access to a 24/7 helpline or something, right? For smaller agencies, perhaps it's worth investing in something like that so that that's in place. So you can then say, thank you for sharing, I hear you, I'm not best qualified to help you with this though. Have you tried X, Y, and Z route? Because it always comes back to, if we're opening something up, can we actually close it down 9 times out of 10? We're not able to. So just keeping that in mind, that you're not there as their counsellor or their therapist, and there's other routes that they should be following.
Yeah, I don't have the experience of people uploading on me, but sometimes with my child having complex needs, it becomes so much and it's so heavy. And actually, what Heather's saying about being nice and kind, be kind to yourself, and actually, if you pride yourself on being transparent, tell them that it's too much. In whatever way is correct. This is just off the top of my head, but if you have that relationship with them, you can say, I can't deal with this right now. Like, you know that I'm having all of this on me already. Like, let's find other people within the organisation or someone professional. Like, it doesn't have to be you all the time, and it's okay not to be okay, and to also let people know that you're not okay.
And I completely agree with that. And just another follow-on to always reinforce that it is a two-way street. So we do, and I'm so pleased that we can have these, honest and open conversations. And as you said, you've developed an agency, you want to lead by example. You've got, Gen Z, etc. But if we are accommodating X and Y, I expect you to deliver X and Y. And I've had, and I'm still working through, but sometimes I will be so mad if people miss a deadline or underperform, and I think I've done all that stuff for you, with showing you absolute compassion, grace, and kindness, and you're taking the piss, and to not be trying to challenge that. It's a two-way street, and they've got to keep up their side of the bargain. And I do believe those are few and far between, but it has to be challenged. Otherwise, it's.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we are conscious of time. If there was one speedy question, we could fit one in, otherwise we'd wrap up. Is anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much for taking part of it, getting here out the door super early. It's amazing. And we would love for you to be involved in PR Moms more. I know I've mentioned a few things about it. If you're all happy with it, I would love to send a follow-up email with just some links to PR Moms resources and ways you can be involved, and see our PR great in London as well. So thank you for being partners for this. Obviously, please do keep the conversation about parenting PR going. I think it's so important, all the reasons we've discussed today, and really appreciate you being part of the conversation today. So thank you so much. I'm going to do our panelists.